I first started racing when I was 10 years old. The reason I actually got into circle track racing was because of my neighbors across the street. They had a son about my age, and he raced quarter midgets as well. And they offered me to come out and test drive his quarter midget. And as soon as I strapped into that thing, I absolutely fell in love with it. And I was ready to go racing, and I think my dad saw that in me as well. And we started looking around for a quarter midget, and he ended up actually buying me one. But the one rule is if I had it, then me and my brother had to do all the work on it, because my dad was always out of town, drag racing with the NHRA circuit. So at the age of 10, I had to learn how to, change the oil in my quarter midget, change the gears, clean the tires, load the trailer. Me and my brother would do all of that, set the race cars up, and we'd get it all loaded in the trailer. And obviously neither of us were 16, so my mom would hop in our Chevy pickup truck and drive us to the races. So that's how I got started. And the first time I ever competed in a quarter midget race, I actually ended up winning it. I won my first race that I ever competed in, and it's been going since. A few years into me racing quarter midgets, I actually got in touch with Rick Warner's son. He's a crew chief over at Tony Stewart Racing. I actually met him at school, and we got him into quarter midget racing. But once we got him into quarter midget racing, we were at the Fort Wayne Rumble, and Tony Stewart always races his famed Munchkin there. It's a small indoor track inside of a hockey arena, and Tony was racing there, I was racing there. I ended up winning my race there, and we had some downtime in between the quarter midget races and the full midget races, and I went up into the grandstands and met Tony Stewart and got to sit with him and watch some racing, and it was history since there. So he kind of took me under his wing from that point on, and as I moved up the ranks, I always kept in touch with him, and he eventually gave me a shot to race out of his shop right here in Brownsburg, just down the street from John Force Racing. And he helped me out a lot. I couldn't have done what I've done to this point in my career without him. He helped me out tremendously, and I owe the world to him. So that's how I met Tony Stewart, and that's how I got involved with racing over there. In the end of 2016, I received a phone call from John Force, and he was offering a developmental driver program for me to take. And they needed some young blood over here to help fill positions along the way, in the future years. And obviously, you can't say no to John Force when he offers you something like that. It was a dream come true for me. I always kind of knew I would end up back in drag racing, where my dad's roots were. End of 2016, I had actually just purchased a World of Outlaw sprint car operation, and I was getting ready to go racing out of Tony Stewart Racing with that, and John called and mixed my whole life up, but it was obviously the right way to go. I'm absolutely loving what I'm doing, and the deal was if I took the opportunity, I had to work on his daughter's race cars for a couple years. We didn't know how long, we were just going to kind of play it as the years went, just so I could get more familiar with the cars, because I'd been around the sport my entire life, but never really worked hands-on, beat up and down the road with the crew guys, like a lot of the drivers have done, coming up through the ranks. So in 2017, I worked on Courtney Force's funny car, and got paired up with Ronnie Thompson, who actually ended up tuning my dragster the first year out for my rookie season. And it was a lot of fun. I gained a lot of respect from the crew guys, going out there and busting my tail right with them, and it really opened my eyes up to how hard each and every one of these crew guys work to make these cars perform at the level that they do. So in 2017, I was working on Courtney's car, and during off weekends, I was licensing, getting some of my license under my belt to move up the ranks, and ended up getting my Super Comp dragster license with Frank Hawley, alcohol funny car license. I did my A-Fuel dragster license with Anthony DeCero. It was a very busy and hectic year, a lot of learning for me, because I was learning about the race cars and learning how to drive these drag cars. And it was just an absolute blast, one of the best years of my life. And 2018, I actually went over to Brittany Force's car with Ronnie Thompson. He decided to move over to the dragster, and I followed him just because he kind of took me under his wing, when this all started, and I really enjoyed working with him. So I worked on her dragster, and when the John Force racing cars were testing, they'd throw me in the funny car periodically just to get my feet wet, and I think it was the spring race in Las Vegas, I got in a funny car for the first time, and that's a day I will never forget. A lifelong goal of mine to drive a nitro funny car, just like my grandfather did back in the 70s against John Force, and I can remember that day vividly, getting fit in the car. I think it was on Sunday night, getting fit in the car, and they were going to send me down the racetrack on Monday morning. And I remember going up there, and the cameras were out, and everybody was just right up in my face, excited to see how this was going to go. A first time driver in a funny car coming from circle track, not very many runs under my belt, and went up there, did the burnout, everything went fine, and staged this thing, and the Christmas tree didn't come down. And I'm sitting up there like a sitting duck because, I don't know if something's going wrong, and they're not dropping the Christmas tree because of that reason. So I just waited up there patiently, and Brian Karate and Danny Hood were the crew chief on that car at that point, and Brian got on the radio and yelled go, and if you could measure that reaction time, I bet it was a perfect light, because he scared the absolute crap out of me yelling over the radio like that, and went to about 330 feet, and they shut me off with the safety box. That was a planned deal, but it was straight as an arrow, and if they didn't have that safety box, I would have drove it all the way to the finish line. It felt absolutely amazing, and the thing was hauling the mail. The track was cold and tight that morning, and they had it set up to run about 384, so that would have been a pretty cool story to tell for my first time going down the racetrack. The winter of 2018, we actually decided, since I had my funny car license, I was going to go Top Fuel funny car racing. That was the original plan. As soon as we got back from Pomona at the end of 2018, and had our off-season break. I actually snuck in here a few times during the break just because I was so excited to start actually building a team for myself, and came in, Scotch-brighted the funny car chassis all down, and started gun gluing it just so when the guys got back to the shop, they were, had some of their work completed, and just to get a couple stripes on my belt. And shortly after getting back from winter vacation, that whole plan changed, and we decided we were going to build a Top Fuel dragster. So we wanted 2 dragsters, 2 funny cars, and so obviously I didn't even have a Top Fuel dragster license at that point, but I was going to do everything I could to help get these race cars together, and in hopes of finding a sponsorship and getting out there in the 2019 season. So as weeks go on, things change. We don't have funding for this car, and when we don't have funding, a lot of the crew guys saw that, and they had to go find jobs because we didn't know if we were going to race or not, and it ended up just being John Schaefer, Ronnie Thompson, and me left, just the 3 of us, and we had to figure out how to build 2 complete dragsters from a funny car operation. The whole trailer was set up with all the funny car equipment, had to gut everything out, and the cars don't even load the same in the trailer, so you can see where this is going. But so we thrashed all winter long, just the 3 of us. I learned an absolute ton from both of them, because I'd worked on the dragster before on Brittany's car, but never actually built one, and I had a blast doing. I loved to fabricate, I loved to machine, I loved to do carbon fiber work, so it was right up my alley. So all winter long we were just praying in hopes that we would find a sponsorship and we could go racing. Well, Phoenix Test came about, and we had nothing. All the teams left, and we were sitting ducks here at home. Didn't have the cars ready yet because it was just the 3 of us, and I think it was Saturday, the end of Phoenix Test, we get a call. Force is on the phone and says, "Hey, I think I got a deal. You guys got to get this thing there." Well, we didn't even have a body at this point for this dragster, so we start pulling strings. Ended up scrounging up body panels from other teams. Call Aerodyne. Aerodyne ends up pulling through and building us a complete body. Get it mounted, man. We burned the midnight oil, for a few days, and So once we got the car finally finished, we had to figure out how to get these trailers out there because we didn't have CDL license, we didn't have drivers. So ended up started calling around. Dick Jackson, who was a longtime JFR employee and actually worked on my car in the 2019 season, flew down here, hopped in the truck and drove this thing down there. And we got there the Sunday, the last day of Phoenix test, about 4 o'clock, and pulled the brakes on this thing. And my dad comes by the pit and he goes, "You guys gonna run this thing today?" Because we had no intentions of running it. Didn't really have time to look at the weather. The weather looked nasty Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Monday was the best day for us. So we ended up pulling this thing out of the race car trailer. All the other JFR cars are done testing for the week. And we had all 4 teams over here in this pit right here, pulling the car out of the trailer, pulling all the toolboxes out, getting all the tools out, and you know, all the parts and pieces to get this thing ready to go. Well, we were running out of time. The sun was getting ready to go down, and you know, I'm in the pits getting strapped in the car while they're bolting heads on this thing. We got crew chiefs torquing heads on it. Like it was a wild night. But ended up getting up there to make my first ever run in a top fuel dragster, stand on the gas, and you guys should have seen the starting line. I think we had every team at the Phoenix test, every nitro team out there on the starting line. It looked like the World Finals final round up there. The starting line was packed, and I stood on the gas in this thing, and we had a clutch malfunction, and it blew the tires off at the hit. And idled down the racetrack, get back to the pit, and realized there's something wrong with this race car. That was not what it was supposed to do. So we start diving into it and found out that our clutch cannon locked up. We had the wrong lubricant or oil in there, and it locked it up. And if we wouldn't have found that Sunday night, I would have never got licensed in this dragster, and we would have never made it to Pomona to make my debut in Top Fuel Dragster. So burned a whole bunch of more midnight oil that night, got it fixed, and Monday was the only day that the weather looked any decent. Tuesday was rain, Wednesday was rain, and Thursday we had to be in Pomona to unload this thing. So, you know, ended up making 3 laps on Monday, got licensed, never even made it to the finish line, just went far enough just to get my license, and showed up to Pomona on Thursday, unloaded. We had landed this Montana brand sponsorship. John was calling everybody and their brother to try and get this operation, you know, to look up to par, you know, for Montana brand and Frank Teagues and Rocky Mountain Twist. We had awnings made, starting line shirts made. We had the car wrapped, all in a matter of a day and a half. So, you know, leading up to my first ever Top Fuel race was absolutely wild. You know, there's not very many stories like that out there, you know, for any of the drivers, but both my opportunities to drive these nitro burning machines was absolutely crazy, just about as crazy as they are to drive, but it was all worth it.